on in.
Oh, way too close.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Daniel here. We have Jake, Andrew, and Keith with us today. It's been a while since we've done one of these, but we're pretty excited because we have a lot of really amazing beers to talk about today, and I do mean a lot. So we're gonna try and keep this one to an hour. I think I say that every time we do this, but this is gonna be the week. This is 1 hour. Yeah, I'm putting my word on it.
It's the power hour.
Yeah. It's a power hour. So we got a couple things. We'll do some housekeeping stuff really quickly. But the new releases going out tomorrow for Hoarders, Thursday for Reserve Society, Friday for Preservation Society. We have a lot of stuff coming out. I think the most anticipated is probably a Gray Monday, another really fun and confusing name for a beer that I'm sure everybody loves to hear. As always, if you have any questions or comments, we'll be answering them throughout the show. So just throw them down there. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, we'll pull them up. We'll try to answer everything. One other exciting thing happening this week is this year we wanted to try something new with so it's enrollment season. Hoarder Society is just about filled. So if you haven't done that yet and you're a hoarder that wants to rejoin or you want to upgrade from Reserve Society, you're invited. I highly suggest getting on that pretty quickly. That one isn't going to last long. Reserve Society, obviously you have your 2 weeks of guaranteed renewals. This year, we're offering something new where for 1 week, this week, we're kind of previewing for non-Reserve Society members some of the best stuff we've done over the last few years. So if you're local and you have a friend who wants to join, set up a reservation, take them to the tasting room. We have a lot of awesome stuff on draft. And one friend this week, I believe one friend only, we're allowing you to refer a friend basically. So before it goes public and sells out, you can offer one friend the chance to join the Reserve Society for 2021. So again, any questions, toss them in the comments. Let's get started though. Let's first some quick intros. So let's start with Jake.
What's going on, guys? Jake, work at the fulfillment center, so if you're ever picking up beers in California, you will likely run into me at some point. Watch yourself.
Keith, you guys got that, dude. Come on.
I'm Keith. I'm the production manager over at Bruers, so handle all the wild and sour fermentation and kind of the wild and sour packaging as well. So.
And I'm Andrew. I'm the innovation manager at the Brewery True offshoot. Basically run the pilot system and new product development for us, new beers. Play with all the fun ingredients.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, we have a lot to get through, so let's get into it. First up, we're going to be cracking a nice little ripper here. So we have a Rukeller Märzen, as Darren would say. Some of you might say Märzen. Some of you might say Oktoberfest. But this is the first beer we're going to open. It's kind of a fan favorite from last year, bringing it back because we had a lot of fun with it, and it's a great beer for the season. So who wants to tell us about it?
I'll kick it off. We've been doing some sort of Märzen or Oktoberfest style beer for probably about 4 or 5 years now. This is pretty much related to the one that we served at the Oktoberfest party back in 2016, I want to say it was. And every year at least on the pilot system, we've brought it back. And I want to say it was 3 years ago, we brewed 2 3-barrel tanks and they were gone in like 4 days. So we thought, maybe we should make a bigger batch of this. So 2 years ago, we made a larger batch off the production system and canned it. And it's back again this year as part of that Rukeller brand family. Just a really nice, tasty lager, a little bit toasty, bready, a little bit higher strength than what you get from Helles, a little bit more color to it. Pilsner malt, Munich malts, Carolina Melanoid, and a Saphira and Magnum. Just simple, crisp, malty, good Oktoberfest beer.
Cool. That's
Pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if there are any questions on Meritzen in the comments. If anybody else has anything they want to toss in on that, feel free
Yeah,
to.
I think it's having a pretty good reception today. I saw somebody walking out with a case. So yeah, the guy likes it.
Honestly, I love it. I think this is one of the better lagers we do year round, and that includes Helles, which is obviously a fantastic beer in its own right. Kind of bummed, like internally, we were going to submit this to JBF, but we missed the packaging date to send it in. So when we tasted it as a group around the Bright Tanks, we were just very disappointed that we couldn't get the packaging date right to get it off in time, because I think this would do pretty well in competition, let alone just a delicious beer.
Nice. All right. I want to keep this thing moving, so let's. I'm going to pull up a kind of an off-topic question while we open up the next beer, which is Field Horse, I believe. People give us a little talk on Field Horse, but Jonathan Thayer has a question. Any plans for Black Tuesday next month? Yes, we have a lot of plans, a lot of things in the works. Ultimately, as you might expect, we're not going to have a Black Tuesday party like we always do. However, we're planning on putting together basically a version of this thing on steroids. So big production, virtual happy hour for Black Tuesday. And as many of you, or if any of you are in our Beer Advocate Forum and have seen, we're going to be doing a special virtual happy hour box. So that's going to be 3 different 10-ounce cans of one-off Black Tuesday variants that were originally going to be party beers. Now we're throwing them in the box, and they're going to have 2 glasses paired with them. So we're still kind of working on some of those plans, but we are going to go just as big as ever for Black Tuesday, if not bigger this year. So stay tuned. We'll keep you guys in the loop.
To tack on to that, the plan is, as of right now, they're not finished yet, but to have another 5 exclusive Black Tuesday one-off variants that we haven't made before available at our 2 tasting rooms, in addition to this new box, which sounds pretty rad.
It does seem pretty damn rad. I'm excited for it, and I'm excited for the 10-ounce cans. That'll be pretty cool. All right, let's move on to Field Horse. Field Horse, tell us what we got.
Yeah, so Field Horse is a take on we kind of have this theme going on with all these horse beers, right? So Field Horse is a take on that. There's actually some field horses in France and throughout Europe that actually feast on pomegranates, and it kind of was inspiring, and I thought it was neat. And I love pomegranates. I think it's a nice light fruit to put into a saison like we did here, and we kind of dry hopped it with lemon verbena. So it came out really nice, really refreshing. I mean, quite honestly, it's a very satisfying saison with a slight tartness to it.
Yeah.
Not overly tart.
I like the tartness of the pomegranate, and then the lemon verbena has some floral notes. Just out of curiosity, where did that flavor combination come up with? Like, how did you come up with that idea to add lemon verbena?
So the Field Horse concept kind of lended itself to the pomegranate, and then we were thinking, like, what else would be, I don't know, something that we could see as like a field ingredient. And we were just talking and chatting, and I forget what beer had lemon verbena in it last year. I forget the names, but it was a beer that we did, and it was, quite honestly, it was fantastic. And we said we'll just try it out, and that's where we landed.
Nice, Jake. What do you think about this one, man? We want to hear your voice.
What I like about it is that, like, the fruit doesn't completely overpower, like, that slight funk you get on the finish. Like, at the very, it's subtle, but it's definitely there. And you kind of always want that from, like, a brewery saison, that little bit of funk to it. And it's there, but it's not overwhelming, and it's not overpowered by the fruit. So I did that.
Nice.
I think it has a lot of nice, like, foeder notes too. So, like, when you drink this, it really does remind me of what the foeder smells like. If that's not weird.
It's hard to describe to someone who hasn't worked around them before.
Yeah, I know, it is hard, but
this and stuff like that.
This is what it smells like. So.
Hey, Keith, I'm sure most of the most of our members watching this know, but for someone who doesn't, what's a fooder?
So a fooder is basically a large barrel. I mean, it's a barrel that quite honestly doesn't move, and that's probably one of the two main differences. It's a larger size, and quite honestly, it doesn't move at all. So our largest fooder is 250 barrels. So off the top, what is that? Around 9,300 gallons.
I think that's 9,000 some odd gallons. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a fooder. So if you've ever been to our true tasting room, definitely check it out.
All right. I'm gonna keep this thing going. Let's move on to Muffin Train. And while we're opening Muffin Train, we got a great question here that we'll kind of go around and let Jake answer, and then Keith, and then Bill. But what songs pair best with your favorite brewery beer? Spelled brewery wrong, but close enough.
That's what I was gonna make sure. Are we talking about we're talking about the brewery, right?
We're talking about the brewery. Jake, man, what are you listening to when you're ripping brewery beers?
Well, my favorite album to listen to when I'm having a beer period is usually Pet Sounds, Beach Boys. So
Okay.
stick with that one, yeah.
I like it. Keith, you got an answer on this one?
Oh man,
You're a big
I'm
Whitney
terrible.
Houston fan, right?
What's that?
Big Whitney Houston fan, right?
I love Whitney Houston. Yeah, I mean anything from the Bodyguard album. So yeah, that's a tough one. That nails it down though to like 12 songs.
There you go. Andrew Bell,
No
what's
idea.
going on in your head, man?
No idea. I like to contemplate my beers in silence.
Sounds of silence, dude. Sounds of silence. There we go. We
Just
picked
a
it.
just a humming note. Just a hum.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So let's move on. What do we got up next? We're talking.
We're on Muffin Train, I think.
So Muffin Train, Dave says, is dope. I would agree. Love the flavor on it. A little cinnamon. What do you think, Keith? Tell us about Muffin Train.
You nailed it.
Read the
Yeah,
SOP.
Yeah, so this is a take on Train to Beersel. That's where the train name comes from. This is our Imperial Sour Blonde that we fermented with a ton of the blueberries, and we added cinnamon and vanilla actually separately. So that was kind of a different technique that we did this time. We actually recirced it. I don't know if Bell's done that, but that's exactly the song I was thinking about. But yeah, so yeah, it's literally what Dave said. I mean, we wanted it to be just like a touch of cinnamon, not overpowering. And I know sometimes cinnamon can be like polarizing. So it is something we have to put on the label, but we just wanted to be like a touch of cinnamon that isn't more like a pie and not like a cinnamon bomb.
Yeah, I think you got these ingredients together quite well. When it was first bottled and we were tasting it through sensory, I thought the cinnamon was a bit sharp, but right now it's perfect accent. It smells like a blueberry muffin to me. Well, the name obviously helps with that, but as you were saying, like there's some orange zest in here as well. Like very, very, very subtle. The cinnamon's a little bit stronger, but it's most of the blueberry. You get that creaminess from the vanilla. It almost smells like there's some like baked doughy grain character to it. That's I don't know. It's pretty cool. Yeah, good job.
Thanse. You too. Good job, everybody.
Man, tell us your thoughts on this one.
What's up?
Jake, tell us your thoughts on this one, dude.
Well, I got to try this one the other day too, but I mean, like Train at Beer Cell is probably one of my all-time favorite Teru beers. It's right up there with like any sour on the rye variant. It's just a strong, amazing base beer. So I was really excited when this one came out. I think like Belle was saying, you kind of like get like that zesty citrus muffin note. It just really pops, but it's not like overwhelming and doesn't like overpower like what the amazing like base beer is, which is just like some barrel aged imperial lambic. You just can't beat it.
What do you think about this, Daniel?
I haven't tried it yet. I have not tried it yet, but I'm letting the experts give their thoughts on this one. Let's see. You guys want to move on to the next beer? We got a lot of beers. And one of the reasons we have a lot of beers is because we're actually going to walk through the Hoarder's Box beers this time. Yeah. So that's a good transition into the Hoarders Box beers, and we're going to start off with a little beer called Horse in the Grove.
Not to be confused with the other horse, the field horse.
Yeah, the horse has been in the orchard, it's been in the grove, it's been in the field. Next year he's going to be in the sea. The horse goes everywhere.
I can see
Yeah,
some marketing with that.
It's been a good
So
time.
this is a take on like we said before, so like our saison. So a lot of our saisons have that horse name in it. So this is actually going to be like a 50% blend of a saison and then blended with sour blonde. And then we added apricots, pomegranate, and then white pepper. So the white pepper is also added after the fact so that we can actually add it in lightly to flavor. This is another one that, like, you know, the white pepper really comes through, and pepper in general really comes through in saisons. So that's kind of what we were going for. It's just a little bit more peppery.
So when you're saying peppery, Keith, like what? So who's trying this for the first time? Like, what's that perceived like flavor note that they should be getting?
Pepper.
Like, do you have like a little bit of like not spice, but just like is it just like a little bit of an extra bite, or is it?
Well, white pepper also has a much more like sort of funky aromatic than black pepper does. It's very distinctive. In sort of its, I mean, black pepper is like very clean, very woody, versus white pepper, which does have that sort of like funk tinge to it, which I think works well in the sour or Brett beer. Not to jump in front of you, Keith, but
No, take it, because quite honestly, I think that's a great explanation that I probably wouldn't have had. So, thanks.
What are your thoughts on the beer, Bell? Give us your sensory.
I like it. I mean, the nose definitely has some funk, has some pepper to it. But on the palate, it's really nice. I get mostly stone fruit more so than the pomegranate. I get maybe some of the acidity from the pomegranate, but I get a lot of like juicy stone fruit in the back end. Sourness is medium light, mostly like a fruit level of sourness, but I think it's pretty awesome. I definitely like the aromatics are much funkier than what it is on the mouth. On the mouth is a fruited, slightly tart saison.
Jake, I'm gonna throw a question at you just for anybody who isn't a hoarder or does not know what a Hoarders Box is. Why don't you kind of explain what the Hoarders Box project is and why we have so much fun with them?
Sure. So, like, the Hoarders Box is essentially a chance for us to kind of explore and think outside the box a little bit and kind of create some really small, like, limited one batch beers, or like not one batch, but limited, release. And essentially, once a quarter, we put them out for the hoarders to purchase in addition to like the included beers that they get. So it's really a great chance to see kind of like where our brewers are at with like, innovations and kind of just like being at like the forefront of making awesome new beers that people just kind of really haven't thought of before. Sorry if that was a little long-winded.
No, I think that was a great explanation. So once a quarter, we put out these really tiny baby batch beers in a box for orders. And they're just exciting projects that we don't really scale up very often. Cool.
Yeah, they're really small projects. Like the fact that we put these in bottles or cans is kind of crazy. Like this normal, these beers are very like usually esoteric and interesting, but the fact that we're putting this size amount in bottles or cans is crazy. It would normally be a small taster or draft release.
So hoarders, make sure you buy your box. All right. Next up is a beer called Moesha's Apple Sour. And before we start talking about taste, Keith, why don't you explain this name to us?
Okay. Sure thing. Let me find the bottle here. Yeah, so this is a beer that we aged in apple brandy barrels, and then we added apple puree to this beer. So the name comes from Brandy's famous hit show, Moesha. And that's literally where the name came from. And so we can't call out Or I don't know. Maybe Bill has a better explanation. I don't think there was some reason we could not call out the apple brandy.
Yeah, probably it had something.
Some legal.
Yeah, label laws claiming that the government thinks that people were easily confused. That if we put brandy on the name of something, that people would think there's brandy in the beer instead of it just being aged in. Labeling laws are fascinating. How we got into certain positions, but yeah, that's my understanding.
Cool.
Of what the issue was on that.
So apple sour, yes, this is part of the hoarder's box. Dave asks, is this in allocations yet? No, that will hit your allocations tomorrow morning. Kendall said, please spell that beer's name.
MOESHA -S.
It's not funny.
No, sorry, camera doesn't
Moesha. So it's MOESHA.
Moesha. Cool. You guys want to talk taste?
Sure.
Keith go first on this.
Yeah. So this I think this beer has a ton of apple. So it's Macintosh apple. So it's a ton of like apple flavor coming through. Really kind of like after the fact, like retro nasal. You get a lot of apple, like skin and fruit.
And tannin too.
And tannin, and I mean, I think that's really kind of dominating this beer. I think the apple brandy is kind of showing through. It's not as much as I quite honestly as I wanted, but I think the apple flavor is really coming through on this.
Yeah. I mean, this is incredibly dry. It has sort of the tannin structure you'd find in a really, really nice cider, not the typical thing you can get at the grocery store, but like a really actually well-made cider. Has a ton of that tannin structure. Acidity's there. Like there's both the lactic acidity from the beer as well as the malic acidity from the apples. It's kind of cool. I'm not getting a huge amount of apple brandy barrel. If it is, it's really well integrated, but it's a nice sour with a lot of apple character. Cider, but not like cidery when people talk about that. Relatively low funk, just pretty clean.
Nice. Jake, any final tasting notes you want to add in on this one?
I was just overly surprised by like how it's not like a terribly sweet beer. I just figured with all the apples that it would just be like a little bit heavier on the sweet notes, and it's actually pretty reserved in a good way. So digging it.
Reserved for hoarders.
Yeah. So I think pretty much a lot of stuff that comes out, pretty much everything that comes out of Teru is going to be really dry, and that's just the nature of the program over at Teru. So I mean, this is kind of like no exception, right? So this is a bottle conditioned beer, which takes it a little bit further, a little bit more drier, and a little bit more fizzy and pop. So
nice. All right. We don't have any other questions on this beer. Feel free to toss them in the comments, but let's keep the show moving. So we're gonna move on to Cherry Coconut Tart of Darkness. This is a fun one.
Yeah, this is one that I really enjoy. I think it's kind of polarizing. So some people, I think Belle was saying there's some strong coconut flavors coming through. But yeah, so this is our Tart of Darkness variant. We actually toasted coconuts over at the brewery side, brought them over to Teru. I'll put those in barrels and re-ferment it with cherry, Montmorency cherry concentrate. So this cherry is from King Orchards, and yeah. So it's actually been probably about a month since I've had it. So let me pour a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. You get a lot of that Tart of Darkness base. You get the toasted coconut, which I think is what kind of threw me initially with this beer. Like the toasted coconut, I was for some reason thinking more like raw coconut with the flavor. And then like the tart cherries in the very, very far back. It's cool. It's interesting. There's definitely a lot of coconut. That's the main character, is that toasted coconut.
What flavor differences do you get when you use raw versus toasted coconut?
I mean, raw coconut is where you're getting all that sort of tropical tropical flavor from the coconut versus toasted. You're getting the toast of it. You're getting like caramelization and a little bit of leather. You're getting like you're not getting that like fresh character. You're getting a lot. Sorry, that's the wrong word to use. You're not getting like a vibrant character. You're getting a decadent character.
Got it. Which do you guys prefer to use in beers? Fresh, toasted, or does it depend on the project?
It depends on the project for me. 100% depends on the project. And to be honest, sometimes I like it blended, like a blend of raw and toasted. Like I said, if you're looking for like a tropical character, raw is the way to go. If you're looking for like a caramelized, decadent character, you're wanting the toasted. But sometimes a blend gets the best of both worlds. So.
Nice. Dave says, just based on the name, sounds interesting. So thanks for that, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
It's a cool concept, for sure.
So if you have any questions on this variant, Heart of Darkness, toss them in the comments. Anybody else, anything burning you want to get off your chest about this beer? What's your dog's name, Jake?
Frankie.
Frankie.
Just popping.
All right, so no questions on TOD. So let's keep moving. We still have a lot of beers to drink. Let's see. So next up is
let's do not a brownie before monkey business, if that's okay with you guys, just ABV wise. And
it's fine by me. Not a brownie. So you want to talk about what this beer is and then run us through some tasting notes?
So yeah, this is sort of inspired by like the dessert bar. So there's brownies and then you have blondies, which usually have less chocolate character and more nut character. So this uses a white oak sap base, or barrel aged wheat wine, and then there's coconut, cacao nibs, vanilla, walnuts, and a dulce de leche for a sort of caramelized character to it. So pastry wheat wine.
Pastry wheat wine.
And blonding color, but still over 14% alcohol. And it's decadent. It's really, really fucking decadent.
Sounds decadent.
Coconut. Coconut, nuts, cacao, caramel, vanilla. It's just, beer that's this color usually does not smell anything like this, but this is, to me, this is very powerfully.
Is there one flavor that really just pops or stands out in this beer?
I mean, I think it's a blend of that chocolate and just generic nuttiness, but I'll let Keith take
that. I think quite honestly, I think besides the flavor or aromatics, I think the mouthfeel is what's really amazing on this. I mean, this really tastes like you're eating some brownie batter. Like this is amazing.
Yeah, especially for a white oak sap-based beer. It has a lot more body than, say, a white chocolate or something like that. And I think some of that's both the back sweetening with the dulce de leche as well as the oiliness of both this has raw coconut in it, in addition to the nuts, just creating more body. I think without teasing too much, when we were developing this, we liked the flavor combination enough that we're actually going to do it again for next year, but we're going to create a one-off wheat wine base that we're going to age in barrels before we treat it like this. I mean, I love this as it is, but we're going to do something a little bit different to differentiate it from the white oak sap treatment when we do this again next year. But I think it's fantastic.
Do you think this is the most decadent white oak sap treatment we've ever done?
It's up there.
It's up there. I like that.
What were you saying, Jake?
The sapsicles are pretty intense for the
sapsicles are intense. I feel like there's been a couple other Hoarders batch ones that have been pretty intense, but this is up there. Most of the other ones that have been like very intense have had fruit in them. But as far as anything we bottled other than Hoarders small batch stuff, I think this is easily the most decadent. What do you think, Keith?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. This is fantastic. It really does remind me of like a batter or like a cake batter, and who doesn't lick the spoon when they're baking it?
Yeah, no,
That's
this
a good
is,
beer
this
name.
is childhood memories right there, like scraping the bowl, you know.
Lick the spoon.
Soon.
It's good.
Sal,
really
quick question for you. So, like for a beer like this, how much easier is it for you to impart those like flavors, those adjunct flavors, as it would be as like opposed to like a stout? Because I feel like you really can get the walnut both on like the aroma and on like the actual flavor, and I feel like nuttiness is kind of like something that is like a really subtle, hard to get flavor or like profile on like those darker beers. But it seems like you guys like hit a home run on this one. Like, is it
Yeah,
just easier to the base beer?
that's a great question. With a beer like this, where you're not having like an extra roast flavor from the grain, you have much more of a blank canvas to sort of impart these flavors, where you don't have to deal with any sort of roast being tied in from the underlying beer if it's a stout. But there are other things versus say like a Black Tuesday that has more ethanol. Ethanol is going to extract a lot of those flavors a little bit better, but this you're not having as much competing flavors. What I actually find kind of interesting is having beers like this that have ingredients in them that are associated with flavors you get in imperial stouts by themselves, the grain, like a chocolate or coffee. When you put that in a pale beer, you get some interesting flavors. Like the chocolate in this for a beer that looks this color is pretty fun and pretty incredible. Granted, if you put the same amount of chocolate in a roasted beer like an imperial stout, you get more chocolate character. But it's interesting to kind of taste those ingredients you associate with roast in a blonde beer. Hopefully that answered your question.
I think that did. So Jonathan says 33 minutes to go. that was like 7 minutes ago. Let's see. So Andrew says, how long do these small batch beers take to be completed project?
Varies hugely. I think Keith can.
Yeah, I mean it varies hugely. Trying to think. For instance, I mean, just the TOD one. I mean that took a minimum 6-7 months for primary or secondary aging, and then the ingredient addition time probably add another 2 months, and then finishing probably another month and a half. So I mean, it could be up to a year, sometimes longer. I mean, if you're talking about from like the beginning, especially for like the wheat wine variant, like it's a minimum a year.
Yeah, and some of the ones we've done in the past have had their own work basis off the brew house, their own distinct unique beers into them. So sometimes that's even 2 to 3 years in the making. Others could be it's like, oh well, we have some of this barrel aged stout that's been aging only a year and a half, and then we decide to add whatever ingredient to it. But most of these, at least to come up with the idea, we're talking about for the most part like at least 6 months, even if the beer's already been brewed, but up to 3+ years if we're thinking about something that its own unique base. So it varies. It varies as the answer, but usually a long time.
And years of experience, right? Like not just like just years of doing it over in like different ingredient additions and knowing what to add, when to add it.
And another thing I might add for these hoarder small box things these are usually, I think almost exclusively, they're one and done. We're not doing pilots for a lot of these. They're just, we're going to go for it, versus most of the other stuff we put in bottles and cans, for the most part, has had some sort of pilot work or trials done before it. So these are just, I don't want to say they're shooting from the hip because that's not accurate, but they're raw, like first time around, like let's see what sort of flavors we can get out of this and try and capture that.
It's a swag, right? I think we went through this, right, Daniel? Scientific wild ass guess. Swag.
I like that acronym.
All right. Let's move on to Monkey Biz. And while that's up, I'll go ahead and answer this one. Why did you guys stop doing the box sets with the virtual happy hours? Really miss drinking the beers that are being discussed. I mean, no reason in particular. I think we had some really cool themed happy hours in the past, and as things have started to open up, we've just kind of shifted focus a little bit. But we've been hearing this feedback, so kind of the plan going forward is to plan some more themed ones out, and definitely get some boxes set up so you guys can drink along with us. And that's exactly what our Black Tuesday event will be. So that one is going to be themed around that virtual happy hour box that we'll be setting up. So great question. We're working to bring it back. All right, Monkey Biz. Andrew Bell, tell me about Monkey Biz.
Yeah, so Monkey Biz is the idea for this beer is actually the idea for it was suggested by our CEO Barry to do. We want to do a monkey bread version of bakery, which this is not. It is a monkey bread version of very big barrel aged beers, but it's a blend of Black Tuesday, so happens it's Tuesday, and Anniversary, equal part blend, so 2 barrels each. And then we added cinnamon, dulce de leche for some caramel, pecan and vanilla. And again, to me, it smells just like a baked good. The cinnamon's there. The cinnamon's there for sure. It's not in your face, but it's probably the first thing that my nose picks up. And then you get some nuttiness. You get some caramelized sweetness, and then the vanilla sort of on the background on the nose. Ethanol would be another thing that's on the nose. Barrel character. This is a strong beer. This is over 17% alcohol. So, which is why I want to do the other one first.
We've got some pretty strong beers coming up too. So
you almost get like the texture of the pecan is there. You know, it's more of like that dry, like, I don't know, grittiness almost.
Yeah, a little bit that, and I think the cinnamon also contributes a little bit of like roughness on the back of your tongue when you get it. Just even if there isn't any cinnamon in suspension, you still kind of get that feeling. On the palate, though, there's a lot of barrel. You get some of the Anniversary that comes and kind of complements the dulce de leche, like this rounded caramel, like ooey gooey character to it, and then there's cinnamon, nuts, and vanilla. Not much to dislike about this beer.
Yeah,
except for maybe it'll put you on the ground if you drink the entire bottle by yourself, or in the lineup of 14 other beers.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Slip slow.
I mean, ABV is like hitting super well. If you had given me this beer and didn't tell me that it was clocking in at 17 and above, like I would have guessed like a solid like 13, 14. Like it's, and I say that in like, you know, proceed with caution kind of way.
Yeah, it's good, but it's a sneaky one. Yeah, Black Tuesday and Anniversary is, you know, 2/3 of it. It'll get to you. And then I guess we should talk about the one other beer that we don't have bottles of in front of us. So the other one is straight up Black Tuesday that we aged in Islay Scotch barrels. So if you know anything about Scotch, Islay is going to be your most intense peaty character. If you're not a Scotch fan, proceed with caution. If you're a Scotch fan, you're going to love it. It's intense. It's everything like the iodine, intense, rich peat smoke character, and it's incredible. Just like straight up Black Tuesday with intense amounts of Scotch and peat to it. Polarizing, perhaps, but
it's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's
so intense. It's incredible, but proceed with caution if you don't like peat on that one. Nice. It is everything it says. If you think Scotch barrel, you're getting it out of that beer. All 20 whatever % alcohol of it.
Cool.
So.
Okay, let's keep moving. Let's open up our next beer because we have a bunch of stouts coming up. I think next we wanted to talk about pistachio. While we're opening that, here's kind of an interesting question that I'll tackle. How often do you take a hoarder's box beer and flip into mass distribution, and what is the decision behind it? So never. I think sometimes we really like the results of a hoarder's box beer, and we'll make a version of a beer inspired by it. But these beers really are too complicated, too many ingredients. Like we really can't scale these beers, especially not for distribution. So never.
I don't think we've ever done anything close to that. I mean, these beers do get scaled up to society exclusive, but there's almost always too much added ingredient costs to actually make any money. There would be no way to make any money in distribution. So there's no mass market for those beers.
Yeah,
Some of them, quite honestly, are too expensive to scale up. There are several where we're not making really any money on the beers. But they do, the ones that really hit do usually, if feasible, get scaled up to a society release. But that's,
I think a good
that's
example
usually
of
as
that,
far as it can go.
like that, you guys. So I think last year we did like a rum barrel aged version of Sour on the Rye that we added pineapple and coconut to, and I thought that was one of the best water beers we put out last year. And I know that I think the Sour on the Rye pineapple coconut that we put out for Reserve and Hoarders this year was kind of influenced by that beer, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I would think so.
is inspired by that for sure.
Yeah. Oh, Chris in the comments does bring up one thing that is possible. The Hell Yes, that could be scaled in a reasonable price point. That's one of the few exceptions, and maybe a couple of the saison based beers, but beyond that, that's really it.
Even the saison based beers like are a ton of fruit.
There's not good business sense for scaling them, especially.
It's also practicality too, right? So if we're processing like nectarines or peaches or apricots for like a small batch release, like that's possible. But if we scaled it up to 20 times that size, it's probably just not practical.
Yeah, agreed.
But
Right. Let's go on to pistachio mustachio. What
By
yeah.
the way, the head retention for a beer with nuts in it, that's some nice. Smells good too. But I think the favorite part about this beer for me is the mouthfeel. You just get so much oiliness from the pistachios and so much creaminess from the vanilla. Like, it's great. But anyway, getting to what this beer is. This beer is a blend of stainless steel stout with some barrel aged stout. Mostly So Happens It's Tuesday. So Happens It's Tuesday is aged on Madagascar vanilla beans for, I want to say, 6 weeks on this project. And then the stainless beer was treated also with Madagascar vanilla beans, as well as pistachios from Santa Barbara. I think we were up around 15 or 16 pounds per barrel on it. And then, blended together and packaged and carbonated and all those fun things. But for me, this beer screams vanilla off the bat with some roasted, like, leathery notes and a little bit of the pistachio on the nose, but it comes through more on the flavor for me.
so you said that's 16 pounds per barrel.
Per BDL, yeah.
So that's like what, half pound per gallon?
Yeah, nice little expensive pistachios.
Yeah, it's an insane amount of pistachio.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's ever tried in the comments has ever tried to buy 900 to 2,000 pounds worth of pistachios, but it's a little bit of an investment.
But I was going to ask you guys, like, I know that pistachio is like, it's a subtle flavor to begin with. So it's one of those ones that, like, even though a lot of people try, they don't always succeed with getting that flavor profile through. So, like, you guys feel like
it's hard. You have to kind of tame it out of the beer.
Right.
This, getting to your comment earlier, like, maybe we should trial this, but doing it on a blonde base might get you a little bit more mileage, because the roast and the nuttiness and the base malt in the stout might conflict a little bit with the pistachio. But yeah, I forgot to even mention that this beer is inspired obviously by Black Tuesday box we did last year with pistachio vanilla, just in a much more, I want to say modern's the wrong word, but more contemporary stout profile versus Black Tuesday, which is the alcohol barrel monster. This is much more high residual sugar, high body pastry stout realm. So this beer has a ton of body, and like I said, both the nuts and the vanilla are contributing to that body and making it super creamy. This is probably one of my favorite mouthfeels on a stout we've released this year. And yeah, it's just a fun beer. I don't know.
Here's a question from Brian. Will Pistachio have distribution? Members only limits. Pistachio will not see distribution. However, it is our monthly public pastry stout release. So members obviously get first crack. If you guys don't buy it all, then we'll put it out to the public a couple weeks later. I don't know the limits off the top of my head, but I believe it's usually around 4 for Reserve Society and 6 to 8 for Hoarders. And then Preservation Society too. But yeah, no distro. It will hit the public mid-month.
And I kind of agree with Dave's comments in the comments. It's the pistachio is a background character to the base beer and the vanilla. But I think it's contributing hugely to the mouthfeel, which I'm super happy about with this beer. Like just such a creamy, decadent mouthfeel. But yeah, you do get some of the. It's weird to say, but you get some of this like greenness, like weird. For me, pistachios have a slight salinity and this interesting, very unique like aftertaste, and I'm getting that a lot in this beer as well. And I'm having a hard time putting it into words. But I thought I'd throw that out there anyways, even if it wasn't a fully formed thought.
Here's another one. Do you only get use out of the nuts you use in beers, or are you ever able to make second use of the nuts? Andrew loves eating Black Tuesday pistachios just as a snack.
So we've talked about this mostly with Great Monday before, about using them to try and make like a brittle afterwards. We've never gotten around to actually doing it. That said, at least the hazelnuts in Great Monday, which is probably the most nuts we use in a beer yearly, they mostly taste like bourbon and alcohol when they're done. They don't have a lot of nut character left. They're usually pretty extracted. But we have talked about it. We just haven't executed on it.
We'll have to do that one day. It sounds delicious.
At least on a small scale. We don't have a food processing license that would allow us to do that and sell that, but we know people who could take them from us and do that.
Nice. Okay. 5:48. I don't know that we're going to be able to do this in an hour.
Fine.
All right. Let's keep going. So next up is every year we put this beer out. It's I know it's a lot of the brewers here think it's one of the best barrel-aged stouts we make, and that is So Happens It's Tuesday. Bella, you want to kind of talk about maybe the history of this one first, and then just walk us through what this year's kind of drinking like?
Yeah, so this really starts with Patrick Rue. I'm drinking it out of the can. Not directly, actually, but so this was Patrick's idea. I want to say 2014-ish, 2013. Of basically brewing a quote-unquote session version of Black Tuesday. Basically a Black Tuesday without the feeding. That was the inspiration for this beer. The recipe is modified from that. There's some different specialty malts, and the percentages are slightly different. But other than that, it is a big imperial stout that is focused on attenuation more so than most stouts made these days, and it still uses our proprietary house Belgian strain. So out of the fermenter, it's still pretty estery, dark fruit character, and then over time in barrels, those esters dissipate and make incredible barrel-aged stouts like Black Tuesday, So Happens It's Tuesday. But what it leaves is you still get a little bit of this dark fruit raisin character. The pH is usually a bit lower than you would see in a stout fermented with Cali ale yeast, which is what most of our DTC pastry stouts have been this year. But yeah, interesting character, dark fruits, dates, raisins. I'm getting a lot of marshmallow out of this year's one from the vanilla in the barrel. And considering it's a session version of Black Tuesday, 15.3% alcohol is the session version. It's a fun base. It takes really well. It takes really well to flavors too. Where Black Tuesday with its ethanol infuses flavors really well. It's still just such a dominant ethanol character. When we do so happens with other ingredients, you don't have to worry as much about the ethanol taking over, but just the base beer by itself is fantastic. So yeah, big imperial stout with our Belgian house yeast and aged in bourbon barrels.
Yeah, I think for me, this is probably my favorite stout that the brewery puts out. And I know I'll get a lot of shit from this, no pun intended. But without any ingredients added, I think, quite honestly, this beer is just phenomenal. It always has been at the top of my list. Like if I'm going to drink a bourbon barrel aged imperial stout, it's going to be So Happens It's Tuesday. I love all the variants we make with it. I love all the variants for Black Tuesday, but quite honestly, I just think this is the one that just hits right what I want every single time.
What's your favorite So Happens It's Tuesday variant? Let's go around. Let's go around the room.
Yeah.
So happens.
S'mores.
Well, so Mel, you were talking earlier about when it started. So my first year here in 2014, there was probably 15 different variants on the board of So Happens It's Tuesday. So that was a crazy time to start working at the brewery. It's just like trying to run through all of those beers was a fun time.
That was Tyler, myself, Kevin, and Victor trying to figure out like how are we going to treat this in different ways to kind of see what flavors we can extract differently than Black Tuesday. I have to say that it's hard. Mole is really damn good. So happens Mole.
Damn.
Joyride is
Joyride's good.
Joyride's really good. There's the fudge walnut brownie version that we did last year for festivals specifically. That we have not. We're going to scale something like it, but it's not just going to be straight barrel later this year. But that fudge walnut brownie one's very good too.
Was Freckle shit based or So Happens It's Tuesday based or?
That's its own base.
Okay.
Yeah. But So Happens Mole and Joyride. Those are.
I agree.
It's hard to pick between those two. And yes, David is. It was a variant.
We didn't call it So Happens something though on that one, but
Yeah, that's straight up. Yeah, that was. We did a pilot for that before. That would also sell the festival circuit. That was the Almond Joy. So Happens It's Tuesday.
Mole. Yeah. So to round this back up, I'm on the Mole train as well.
Yeah. I don't think you can really go wrong. There's some fantastic variants, and I think it's just because it's that little bit lower alcohol than Black Tuesday. You can get those candy bar flavors or something, whatever you're trying to go for, a little bit more distinctly without having to worry about that extra ethanol kind of swaying the flavor profile. So, but yeah, there's some good ones out there, and there's more to come.
all right. Let's keep moving.
This train rolling.
Another big one, and another beer with a lot of history here. So Melange, the return of Melange #1.
I think I'll talk about the beer, but I think Andrew probably has more of the history. I mean, I know there was we were doing a ton of different Melange series, right? So I think the last one was 15. Is that right?
I think we got up to someone in the comments is going to correct us. I think we got up to 16 or 17. I mean, we're kind of stuck through. So we did 1 through 7 really early on. And then in 2014, we did 8 for Hoarders. And then it was a pause for like a year. And then we did 9 as like the first blending one. And then we took a year off or 2 from that. And then we started doing some blending things again. But the 1 through 7 order, 1 through 7 we did in the first, I want to say 3 years we were around. Kyle, thank you, 15.
Krauser.
But yeah, of those original ones, the only ones that I can think of off the top of my head that got made more than once were
1-3.
1 and 3. I remember correctly, I can't remember if it was 2 or 4, but one of those was less than 1 keg that we made. And some of them early on were weird. There was it was either 2, 4, or 6. One of them was called Yambic, and it was literally sour blonde before that had its name as Bruers, blended with autumn maple. Like, there's some really weird stuff early on. I think one of those was just literally a cask for beechwood, and that was it. So the early melanges have this history, and melange number 1, first time we made it, it's a Black Tuesday Oud Tart base, but I think the first time we actually released it, neither of those 2 beers had been released before, so neither of them had names. So it was Flemish Red with Imperial Stout, just straight up. And then I'll let Keith go down the journey.
Yeah, so that's the comments that Andrew's talking about. So we take our Flemish Red that most people are familiar with, Oud Tart. Quite honestly, one of the best Flemish Reds available. And then we blend that with Black Tuesday, which is one of the best Imperial Stouts available. And we took that out of barrel. So both those beers originally had been aging for about a year. We blended those 2 together and put it back into bourbon barrels for about 7 to 8 months. And that's the result of this. So it's a lot more bourbon. The tartness is definitely coming through, but you still have that rich stout flavors that Melange 1 is really known for.
Yeah. I think this is very interesting. Like, I don't know. I feel when Melange 1 was first released, there wasn't a lot like it. I mean, there's some very big dark sours, like over 10% alcohol being released maybe from Lost Abbey. And then BFM out of Switzerland was also doing some big high alcohol spirit based sours, but it's super unique. And then this version to me, just that extra barrel time, bringing that barrel character back into it, because the Oud Tart base usually doesn't have really much of any spirit character because it's neutral oak for the most part. Just that kind of builds, and there's like this rich, and I don't want to say this in a bad way, but this rich, like super premium aged balsamic character to it. That's just a really, really cool character. I do want to say one other random, completely off the wall comment was that one of the former True Salman and former brewers for the brewery suggested making a beer called Melange 1 Reserve. I want to say back in 2013, Rich Rule. But his concept of this was taking chocolate rain and blending it with your tart cherry. So I challenge Keith to make that next year.
Might be a hoarder's box. We'll start with a hoarder's box.
Exactly. Tasting room exclusive chocolate rain blended with Oud Tart cherry. How about Oud Tart cherry in rum barrels with vanilla? That was probably one of the best Oud Tart variants we've ever released, I think. I don't know, but cheers. This is delicious.
Jake, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just blown away by how much the Oud Tart's like getting to shine in this one. Like, if you blend something down with Black Tuesday, you just assume that Black Tuesday is going to be the beast between the two. And this one's got like a nice like tartness, some kind of like dark fruit note, but it's super enjoyable, and it's not overwhelming to the palate. Like, it's tart, but it's not like so much that like it just rips your cheeks to pieces. As usual, I'm enjoying what you guys do. Please don't ever stop, Andrew and Keith.
Appreciate it. Yeah, no, the complexity of this beer is just insane, and there's not much else like it. I feel people have stopped making these like higher intensity, higher alcohol dark sours, and there's a point where I don't like them, but this is still very much in my wheelhouse, and I miss beers such as Wanderer, such as Befuddlement, which we still make, but there's not a lot of other people making beers like them. And like I said, Lost Abbey used to make a lot of beers like this, and they were fucking incredible. But there's not a lot of other people doing that, and I think it's you can create some really unique and incredible sort of products in this category of bigger, richer sours that are much more like certain styles of dark red. I shouldn't say dark red. Big red wine character, more on the natural side of things, but there's some interesting flavor profiles that people are not really experimenting with in beer anymore, and I kind of miss that.
Dude, shout out to the Wanderer. I don't know if that beer is up for sale right now on our website, but if we ever put it back on the archive sale, that beer is phenomenal, and it's so unique in the best way possible.
Yeah, blending strong and fruited dark sours with some spirit character, I think that you can have some incredible combinations there.
And befuddlement's actually coming back too.
I know it is. I just want to throw it out, but I love befuddlement. Anniversary and sour in the rye with boysenberries.
It's coming along really well. Befuddlement this year is coming along really well.
Can't go wrong with that flavor combo.
Nice.
But it's unique.
Let's keep going. So we have some monsters, 2 monstrous beers to end this thing with. First up is going to be Black Tuesday Maple.
Yeah.
So a lot of interesting things going on in this one. Bella, you're probably again the best guy to kick this
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, I can talk about it. There's basically 3 different beers in here. I have a question for you, Daniel. I thought this was going to be a wax product.
It might just not be waxed yet, unless it has a capsule in it.
Mine has a capsule in it, which I was kind of surprised to see.
It has a capsule. So no, it's a capsule project.
All right, I'm surprised. I mean, this beer's pretty incredible. So there's 3 different beers in here, and I hope I get it right. So, and I can talk about the backstory afterwards. So we got Black Tuesday that has been fed with maple syrup. And I can go back to feeding once I'm done explaining this. That has been aged in maple syrup barrels. There's Black Tuesday that's been fed with maple syrup aged in bourbon barrels. And then there's Black Tuesday, regular Black Tuesday, that has been aged in maple syrup barrels that used to hold bourbon. So, getting back to the basics. Black Tuesday, Imperial Stout. Usually we feed it with sugar during fermentation to kind of raise up the alcohol. Years ago, we used to, when we used to make autumn maple as our fall seasonal, we'd usually end up with a couple drums left over of maple syrup. And in order to use them up, we would add those to Black Tuesday feedings. And, a year or so later, we'd be tasting these Black Tuesday barrels and thinking to ourselves, it's interesting. These are super smooth. They have a really cool, like, woodsy character to them, caramelized. What's up with these? Look back. Oh, these were the batches that we fed maple syrup to. So, 3 years ago, we decided to do a couple Black Tuesday, just straight up Black Tuesday beers where we fed them exclusively maple syrup instead of sugar. Some of those went to bourbon, and then a little bit later when we were doing the second batch of that, we got some really awesome barrels from the Vermont Maple Guild that were previously bourbon barrels that were then used to age maple syrup. They came to us, they were literally falling apart because the sugar, the hydroscopic character of the sugar was sucking the saves in because they're empty. But just dripping with maple syrup, mess all over the floor. And we filled those with Black Tuesday that we had fed maple syrup as well as regular Black Tuesday. And this is a blend of all 3, and I think it's fantastic. Long story short. And you get, for sensory-wise, you get barrel, you get some tobacco, you get chocolate and a little bit of maple in the nose, and then palate-wise, you get a huge amount of sweetness to let you know it's not regular Black Tuesday and not maple. And Keith, take it over.
No, I agree 100%. I think it's a ton of maple. It's just one of those beers that on packaging day. So I work at a separate facility, and I drove over to try to grab a bottle and bring it back to Peru, and I had my guys taste it out, and it's just one of those beers that we really, we find it super enjoyable, but it's super interesting, and because we all know, like at the brewery as brewers, we all know like what that Black Tuesday feeding is like. So in order to like feed it with maple syrup is very special, and that's why I really wanted to like bring it back and like let all of us taste it together as a group. But yeah, it's fantastic.
That's incredible.
Home run.
It's absolutely incredible. And part of the reason why I'm surprised this isn't wax, both the amount of effort and maple that went into this, but it's I want to use a lot of explicatives right now, but it is fantastic. Yeah, really effing good.
It's YouTube. It's fine.
Well, I don't have much.
I think my mother-in-law might be watching this, so I'm trying to limit my amount of F-bombs.
Just a quick heads up for like anybody who might be wondering. The Black Tuesday 2020 that should be coming out the last Tuesday of October, right?
That's a Daniel.
It's a
What was
Daniel
the question?
question.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I'm looking at Daniel on my computer, but I guess he doesn't get it.
What's the question? What's the question?
When
Just
is Black Tuesday coming out, dude?
Yeah, for anybody who's curious, the Black Tuesday 2020, I believe it comes out the last Tuesday of October, correct?
That is for the general public. Members get access to Black Tuesday as soon as allocations go up. So the first Wednesday of the month in October. So very soon here. Yeah. So last Tuesday for the public, if there's any left. If members buy it out, then it's gone. And then everyone else gets access on that Tuesday. One of the reasons, the main reason this isn't. So I had to go look at our planning. The only reason this isn't waxed is that so you'll see tomorrow, but it's a $32 bottle as opposed to a $42 bottle. So it's a steal.
Honestly, ridiculous. Daniel, we priced that wrong. Me and Jeremy need to take a look at that. It's fantastic. It is a steal. Honestly,
it's a steal. I'm going to blame Jeremy on that one. I know we went back and forth on this, so sorry.
So not put you on the spot here. Not to put you on the spot here, Bill, but do you know what kind of maple syrup?
Yeah, Vermont maple syrup. Most of it was from Butternut Mountain Farms, and then some of it was from Bascom, I want to say. But both of them Vermont maple syrup providers, not cheap. The maple syrup barrels, not cheap.
Yeah, any kind of maple syrup that has the stamp of Vermont is not cheap, right?
No, I would say this is as expressive as, not to undersell any other products, this is easily as expressive to me, especially on the palate, and as distinct from Black Tuesday as Chocolate Rain or Grey Monday is. So, granted, it's slightly lower alcohol because of the maple syrup, but that's 17 too, but it's fantastic.
High praise from Andrew Bell.
It's good, dude.
Buy your allocation.
It's a good one.
Okay. I don't see any other questions on this. Krauser says, damn, even just now.
Krauser's in charge of making sure our products get waxed appropriately.
All right, let's move on. This one is waxed. Last beer of the night. One of the most confusing names of the night. So Grey Monday, not your usual Grey Monday, but instead Grey Monday, a more distinguished version of Grey Monday, as we like to say. So this is a special, again, one-off project similar to Chocolate Rain, not to be confused with Chocolate Rain, but the other Chocolate Rain. Chocolate Rain. So we decided to keep with the theme of confusing names and confuse everybody a little bit and make a really awesome beer. So I think, again, Bell.
I got a question for you. I'll go into this. I got two questions for you, Daniel, about this label that maybe you can answer.
Sure.
One, can you talk about the ghost die cut? And two, can you tell me why there's a silo where we would normally have a tulip?
Yeah, absolutely. Special project. We wanted to do something special with it. These are screen printed, so you can't really put a die cut on a screen print. And so those are the answers. Easy.
What about the silo?
Silo, we wanted a silo.
Sounds good.
Boom.
No, I think the bottle looks awesome, but it is different. So yeah, Grey Monday. Grey Monday.
Grey Monday.
This version has the A in it.
Smell the wax, dude.
The wax.
The wax is scented.
Ooh.
Getting back to some of the original Grey Monday bottles. The gray with the E. This is going to get confusing. So yeah, this Grey Monday, obviously inspired by what we've done with Chocolate Rain, the crown one. Yeah, that one. Jeez. So double barrel aged Black Tuesday. This one in mostly 2 rounds of bourbon barrels. There's some Speyside Scotch and there's 1 Islay barrel in this blend, but all of it has been double barreled. And then obviously it has hazelnuts like we traditionally do for the regular Grey Monday. We did up the dosage rate a bit, but we've found in trials previously that if we add too much hazelnut, it gets too intense to a point where it's not pleasant. So we up the hazelnut a bit over regular Grey Monday. But we had to think of something else that make it even more special because double barrel age, slightly elevated, hazelnut's not enough. So we added both Madagascar and Tahitian vanilla beans to the barrels. So have this intense project, obviously double barrel character, you get some alcohol. It's every part of 20.8, which we have on the label. You get a huge amount of spirit, huge amount of nuts. This sort of complementary vanilla. You get both that sort of traditional vanilla ice cream Madagascar character that's sweet and creamy. You get a little bit of that spice from the Tahitian. And this is just a powerhouse, a tour de force.
So earlier we were talking about nuts, and you were saying that Grey Monday, not Grey Monday, but Grey Monday had a lot of hazelnuts. Can you just talk about what kind of percentage or what's the pound per BBL?
Yeah, so our regular one, I want to say it's roasted hazelnut meal that we're using at this point, which we were using whole roasted hazelnuts for a long time, and then we found we could get much better flavor out of using meal because you have more exposure, more
surface area.
Yeah. And so we initially when we were using whole hazelnuts, we were at the 15 to 16 pounds per bourbon barrel. And then once we moved to the meal, we went down to 10-ish to 12. And now for this project, we went up to close to the original dosage rate, granted with the additional surface area. So we're at around 15 pounds per barrel of meal on this. And then the vanilla dosage rate between the Madagascar and the Tahitian is close to a pound per BBL.
Those aren't cheap to source, right? The Tahitian Madagascar vanilla beans, those are pretty penny, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're not cheap. They've been getting a little bit more affordable compared to say 2 years ago, but when I started actually looking at costs of the brewery I started the brewery in 2012 and I was looking at costs for vanilla around 2013. We were getting vanilla wholesale for $60 a pound. And 2 years ago, we'd be lucky if we could get something under $400 a pound. It's come down since then.
Wow.
But it's still, for the most part, well over $200 a pound. Even if you're buying directly from Madagascar, it's over $200 a pound for the most part. Unless you're ordering 100 plus pounds at a time, and even then, good luck.
All right.
But I think the recent harvests have made it a little bit easier. But still expensive.
It is a big project. Not seeing any other questions. So
I do have a question about this, just kind of in general. I've noticed that the BT variant beers this year have been noticeably smoother and have a lot less residual heat as compared to some other previous years. Is there anything that you guys are doing in particular to get that profile a little bit more smooth as opposed to previous years, or is it just luck of the draw?
It's not luck of the draw. It's definitely
BT beers.
Just saying, noticeably smoother and less heat, residual heat on the finish.
Yeah, there's a couple of things playing. Obviously, blending. It's not luck of the draw. There's obviously blending in and trying to figure out timing for certain batches and how we'll go with adjuncts that can kind of lessen the alcohol perception, as well as blending in some of I think Darren talked about this last year with Black Tuesday, but blending in some of the Farb Black Tuesday, which is a lower alcohol and darker color, and just sort of slight recipe tweaks. But it's a conscious effort to try and make it less hot. I saw another question up there about how peated is this with the Scotch barrels. I'd say it's not very peated. I'd like Keith and Jake kind of talk about it. I think there's just enough Scotch character to let you know that it's not straight bourbon, but there's nothing smoky about it. I'll let Keith and Jake kind of share their thoughts on how peated this tastes.
No, I agree. I think when I think about peated, I'm thinking about that super smoky, like that, like what you're saying. It's not the dominant flavor. I think maybe if you left it out to get it really warm, maybe that'll come through more. But yeah,
as somebody who has like a strong aversion to like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm the odd man out here. I have a strong aversion to like peat. So like Scotch barrel aged things aren't like necessarily my thing. But having said that, like this beer is like not aggressive in that manner at all. So
yeah, no, I mean the thought was to make sure that this was not a peat bomb, but to make it slightly different than just a bourbon version. The spirit character, like a generic whiskey character, be it bourbon or a non-peated Scotch, is there, but the smoke is way an afterthought, way behind the nuts and the vanilla. You have to think about it to think like, oh, I guess this is Scotch barrel aged. But there's enough there to where you think it's like, this isn't just sweet bourbon whiskey. So
cool.
It's fun.
All right, we have a few kind of open-ended questions now that we'll kind of tackle. First up, Dave is asking, I know they aren't available yet, but can you guys talk briefly about the Amarillo by Morning project and the Malbec Terroir project? Bill, you want to start with Amarillo by Morning? So I think
Amarillo by Morning. We got those Amarillo fresh hops by Morning on Friday, this last Friday. And a group of us spent a couple hours processing them and getting them ready to be used in the beer during the knockout. So that beer started fermentation Friday afternoon. We're going to dry hop it probably later this week, and then be ready for the release whenever it's ready to be released. But yeah, I know we had some fun playing around with the hops. I think you probably might have seen our Instagram that the hops came in, and it's a good time getting close to the sort of agricultural part of the business, especially on the offshoot hoppy beer side. I mean, obviously it's our facility, we're dealing with a lot of fresh fruit from our farmer friends, but these farmer fresh hops only come in once a year, so it's a fun experience. Make it honestly, using fresh hops on the hot side makes the entire brewery smell like agriculture. It makes it smell like the hop farm, and it's really cool. But yeah, they came in on Friday, so it's in process. So it's an IPA. Should be ready in a couple of weeks.
Cool. Keith, you want to talk the Terroir project?
Yeah. So Terroir project, this is our second year we're doing this. This is a project across a couple different breweries. Firestone's kind of driving this, but so we got some Malbec grapes from Temecula. We take them in house, let them basically do this natural fermentation. We blend that with some of our sour blonde base, and kind of let it go. I mean, it kind of does its own thing. So it, like we were talking about earlier, Jake, this is a really dry beer wine hybrid. So because of that dryness, we're able to package it still. So that's kind of like our take on the project. We want it to be more of like a wine forward beer. So it has a ton of that tannic fruitiness, a lot of that deep, rich fruit, but also a little bit of Brett funk that comes from a natural wine. It's packaged still, clear glass with a cork finish. It's just got a button of wax, not a huge wax Krauser, so don't worry.
Those buttons might be harder than the tipping the whole thing though.
Yeah, but we're actually doing it at Taru, so we're not even sending it
So
to
it's
Growler. We're waxing it. Yeah.
Now, these
So,
are like really fun to like take to like what I've done with these beers in the past is I've taken them to like tasting events and not told people that it's a beer, and I just kind of pour it for them, and it's pretty mind blowing, like the look on their face, like when they realize that this is actual like a beer wine hybrid.
Yeah, it's made with grain, not just grapes.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's fun.
But it's really dry and it has that tannic mouthfeel of a wine. So
Mhm.
Cool. Here's the one. I keep seeing this question. Did Gray Monday get canceled this year? So we are doing Gray Monday next year. So there won't be a release of Gray Monday this year. We'll have that Gray Monday with an A. But
Gray Monday.
Start the revolt.
Gray Monday.
yeah, Gray Monday. All right, let's see. There was one other one I saw that was pretty interesting. How many
Thanks,
cans
Jason.
Black Tuesday box? So we're actually doing 2 Black Tuesday boxes. We're actually doing our similar to last year's project, the BT box with 12 bottles, 4 different beers. The virtual happy hour box with the 10-ounce cans, that's going to be 3 different beers, 2 cans of each. That's the plan for now. I hope that answers that question. But 2 box projects for Black Tuesday this year.
Also, we should mention that I'm assuming that the Black Tuesday box, when it goes live, we'll be able to do that for delivery. You know, so if people are in the area and they can't come and pick up, we can definitely send that out to them.
Correct. Everything available. You can add to your seller when you purchase, and then choose for local delivery. So we'll be doing local delivery and express shipping on every product. So let's see. Any other good questions? I think.
I have a fun comment. I just did a little blend that some of our Hoarders members might be able to hold over people. Maple Black Tuesday at 2/3 with 1/3 this Gray Monday doesn't suck. So if you're lucky enough to possess those bottles and can skip any of them for blending, it's damn good.
So you heard it here first. That blend does not suck. Do it if you want orders. It's Andrew Bell's palette, so you know it's going to be good. I think that's it, guys. Anything else you want to say about any of these releases before we get out of here? Before we call it a day?
Someone's asking if they can get this stuff in Washington. Or
What was
someone's asking if they can get something in Washington. I don't know if it's Black Tuesday box stuff.
Can we get it in Washington? What is Ellen? Can you ask a second question, letting us know which beer you're referring to?
I'm assuming it's the canned BT party stuff.
So that is a no. It's I mean, what we have a lot of members do is if you are a member, you can purchase and we'll hold it for you and your seller for over a year. So through February of the following year. DC can grab any of these as well. Same deal.
DC.
We ship across California actually next day. So if you get an order in by 2 p.m., we'll get it out to you the very next day anywhere in California and most of a good part of Nevada. So we're also shipping to Nevada. And I know a lot of members have proxies. So you can ask someone else to come pick up your beers for you. Whatever they want to do with it, if they want to ship it to you, that's your beer, that's your business. We don't know what's going on there, but there are a lot of ways to get brewery beers. Just ask us, and we'll help you figure it out.
Legally.
DC.
It probably is worth noting that if
We help you figure
on
it
the East Coast, like we do have a satellite store in Washington, D.C. So if you're like in the Philly, New York, or in the Carolinas, like it's not that far of a drive. If you don't have access to our beers outside of that, I can't speak to the guys that work there. They're like an unsavory group, but the beers are pretty good.
Yeah.
Here's a fun fact from Kyle. Our September truck of beers leaves this Thursday. So every beer that you just saw every beer here will be on it outside of the canned box offering because that's not going to be available until October. But that also means if you get your orders in early enough, we'll get it on the truck and it's ready for you to pick up. I think it takes about 10 days to get over there. So lots of good stuff. Let's end
We're
it with.
not going to make Ethan do one of these things, man.
Yeah.
We
Needs to
keep
jump on
talking
this.
to him about it. The problem is we that 2-week delay on getting beers over there, so he usually doesn't have the beer. I think he's done one, but we're gonna get him on another.
Man, just make him pour fake beers. Nobody will know the difference.
I'll put him on the spot on all of them.
We could also express ship him out a sample of each of them.
Just to note, Ethan is our DC store manager that used to work at the brewery in production.
Yeah,
So
he used to be.
Just so everybody knows who Ethan is. We're not just
That's just
throwing
a
him
random
out.
guy in DC. Yeah. Cool.
And then Dave's been drinking since noon, so we can't listen to him. I saw him at Taru earlier.
I was about to say, throwing slander on our members.
I will say yes, we can definitely do more of these. We're planning something pretty big for the Black Tuesday event. I don't want to oversell it, but we think it's going to be a good time. So more of these to come. Great seeing everybody. Great hanging out. Thanks to the guys for coming in as well. Bell, Keith, etc. We appreciate it. And and Dave has another comment, but I'm going to leave that one on YouTube.
Dave was calling somebody just now. Bull crap.
All right, guys. Another good happy hour. We'll see you soon.
Take care, everyone.